Can the Minnesota Vikings reload and repeat their success from the 2022 season as they defend their NFC North title? Find out in this Minnesota Vikings outlook of the 2023 season.
ATL Jacob.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We're bringing unique insight and analysis behind your favorite teams at the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Johnson, and today we'll be taking a look at our first division champion in our series, the Minnesota Vikings, as they come off a 13-4 record in their 2022 campaign. They had one of the weirdest seasons of all time. They were 11-0 in one-score games. They got blown out quite often when they lost. They got bounced in the wild card round against the New York Giants in a very, very disappointing game from Kirk Cousins and the rest of the squad, the defense especially. They had to go out and do a lot of different things to retool that entire roster. But nonetheless, they had a lot of guys who had a lot of great seasons and great success for this franchise. But with the rise of other teams in their division, they're going to have a tough defense of their NFC North title. And there were some key adds, key losses, and we're going to take a look at a couple of these. Minnesota adds a lot to a defense that lost a lot as well. Dean Lowry, the defensive end, comes over from Green Bay. Byron Murphy, the nickel corner, comes over from the Arizona Cardinals, trying to help out their weaker secondary and young secondary. And then Marcus Davenport, who has been an unproven commodity, high first-round draft pick from New Orleans, comes up to Minnesota trying to prove himself and help Danielle Hunter on the other side. But then you look at the offseason losses. Their tight end, well, their second tight end now, TJ Hawkinson's there now, but Irv Smith Jr. Goes to Cincinnati to become the starter there. Patrick Peterson, the veteran of the bunch, goes to Pittsburgh. Dalvin Tomlinson goes to the Cleveland Browns. And then they release a handful of names. Eric Kendricks, who has been a staple of that franchise for such a long time. Adam Thielen, who was the undrafted backbone of the team, is in Carolina now. And then Dalvin Cook, who was just recently released. That is some of the biggest news of the offseason, and it's going to shake up this team a lot this upcoming season. Filling the shoes of Dalvin Cook is going to be far from easy. He had 268 attempts, 1,173 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, almost 300 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns. He had 1,500 all-purpose yards last season. He was a vital part to this offense that really featured a huge, heavy passing attack. In comes Alexander Mattison, who's been on the team for a little bit, had 74 carries for 283 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaged nearly 4 yards per attempt. He's going to be seeing some bigger holes this season as the Vikings have retooled their receiving core, and they have one of the best receivers in the game on the outside, so maybe he'll be going against some of these lighter boxes. But Alexander Mattison, nonetheless, will have these bigger shoes to fill. Kirk Cousins had one of the better seasons in his career last year. 4,547 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 picks, 66% completion percentage, and he's got a guy named Justin Jefferson on the outside, who, on his part, 128 catches, 1,809 yards, and 8 touchdowns, put him as one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL. Most people would say the best. I'll save that for another episode. He is clearly, if not the most talented receiver in the National Football League. What he's been able to do for this Vikings team has been unbelievable. I want to throw out a stat here. Kirk Cousins, like I said, threw for 4,547 yards, and 1,809 of those went to Justin Jefferson, which goes at 39% of Kirk Cousins' yards go to that man, number 18. Unbelievable chunk, unbelievable load and weight that Justin Jefferson has been having to carry. He's carried it as far as the wild card round. That's why they drafted Jordan Addison. Adam Thielen out, Jordan Addison in. The Biletnikoff winner in 2021 in college football when he was at Pitt comes to Minnesota. I cannot wait to see what he's able to do. Add a nice element on the outside with Justin Jefferson. This is going to be very fun to watch. And then you have KJ Osborne, who has been on the team for a little bit. 60 catches, 650 yards, 5 touchdowns, averages around 11 yards a catch. He's a great possession receiver. They're going to have all the elements that you need in that Vikings receiving core. And at tight end, TJ Hawkinson, 86 receptions, 914 yards, 6 touchdowns. Great pickup from the division rival Detroit Lions at the trade deadline last year. Really opened and flourished their offense. Back to Justin Jefferson. He has the most career receiving yards per game in NFL history at 96.5. Has the most receiving yards for a receiver in its first 3 seasons in league history. He's got help now, so maybe he doesn't have to get to that. But the production increasing value of Justin Jefferson over the past couple years, his first 3 years in the league, has been undeniably incredible. He's in a class of 3 receivers. The elite receivers, but the gold status. I put him in a tier with Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, and himself. If you had a 3-sided coin, flip it, and I wouldn't care who it lands on. Those 3 are the best. Justin Jefferson might be the best of them, but he's just incredible. An incredible player to watch, and I cannot wait to see what he does this upcoming season. The Vikings defense was all over the place last season in the bottom half of the league in categories such as sacks, finishing 21st, in points allowed, finishing 28th, and in yards allowed, finishing 31st. They need help at the pass rusher position, which is what they try to go out there and give with Marcus Davenport. Dale Hutter, though, 65 tackles, 10.5 sacks at the outside linebacker position, was sensational once again. But if the Vikings want to have any type of success this upcoming season with these offensive that have been retooled in their own division, let alone the entire league as free agency just takes over, they need Marcus Davenport, who was a first-round pick, to step up, and who they paid to just he needs to get after it. Brian Asamoah II, Jordan Hicks had a great season last year. They're going to need some of these other players who have not been put in spots this big to step up. It's all a waiting game. But in Minnesota, they can't wait. Their front 4, they don't get a lot of pressure. They need to get pressure. Easier said than done. But if they want to have better results than last season, which 13-4 is a very good record, but the way they did it, I don't think they want to go through that again. But if they want to have some better results for this upcoming season and go on ahead and really put fear in their opponents, rush the passer better, make life havoc on the quarterback, and your young secondary is going to feast. The Vikings have 5 primetime games in 2023. Week 2, they go to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in Thursday Night Football. Week 7, they welcome the San Francisco 49ers to play in Monday Night Football. Week 11, they travel to Denver to play the Broncos on Sunday Night Football. The following week, Thanksgiving weekend, they welcome the Chicago Bears for their Monday Night Stout. And then on New Year's Eve to close out 2023, the Vikings are going to welcome in the Packers on Sunday Night Football. They've got a lot of national recognition this upcoming season. They are going to have a lot of people coming after them. They have a lot of divisional primetime games this season and a lot of 4 o'clock games that are going to get well reception from the entire nation. Their week 1 opponent, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are trying to figure out their quarterback problems with Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. That's huge shoes to fill with Tom Brady retiring from the National Football League. The Bucs have some very good receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans still. They have a decent defense. They are in rebuild mode, so the Vikings might be able to catch one week 1. We'll talk about that another time. But when it comes to the Vikings and the amount of wins that they are looking at this season, it's going to be tough to win 13 games again, especially 11-0 in one-score games. That's just not going to happen. I'm eyeing them around the 8 to 10 win mark, and I'm going to sit at around 9-8, second place in the division. In the NFC, though, 9 wins could get you into the playoffs. It could get you a 6 or 7 seed as a wild card. So I am eyeing of the Vikings to be a wild card positioning team this season. They definitely could win their division, but I'm just looking at what they lost, and it's a lot to overcome. So 9-8 would be a very, very good season for what the Vikings had lost and what they had gained. And I think they can see themselves back in the playoffs.